A few years ago, statements like these would have sounded like satire. Today, they rack up millions of views. A woman declares she won't even consider a man unless he earns $500,000 a year, because her lifestyle allegedly costs $20,000 a month to sustain. Another insists that splitting a dinner bill is a form of economic violence. Somewhere else online, people are being coached on how to extract rent money from men without ever forming a relationship. This isn't fringe behaviour anymore. It's being normalised, applauded and taught. What's striking is not just the extremity of these demands, but how casually they're presented. There's no embarrassment, no self-awareness, no sense of imbalance, just expectation. And as those expectations balloon, something else is happening quietly in the background. Men, including men with money, status and options, are stepping away. Not angrily, not dramatically, calmly, because they're running the numbers and realizing the equation doesn't work. Modern dating increasingly feels less like partnership and more like a transaction where one side sets the price and the other is expected to pay for access. Romance has been reframed as entitlement. Effort is assumed, not earned. And men are beginning to recognize that the game has shifted from mutual investment to unilateral extraction. When even high-performing men conclude that participation no longer makes sense, it's not because they're inadequate. It's because the structure itself has become distorted. Nowhere is this distortion more visible than in marriage. Once marketed as the ultimate commitment, it has become, for many men, a legal liability. The promise is unity, the reality is risk. You enter believing you're building a shared future, only to discover that if things unravel, which they statistically do more often than not, you're exposed to losses that far outweigh any upside. Assets divided, ongoing payments mandated, limited access to children, emotional devastation paired with financial obligation. What makes this especially chilling is that behaviour no longer matters. Fidelity doesn't protect you. Sacrifice doesn't earn leniency. Who stayed loyal is irrelevant. Who initiated the separation barely registers. The determining factor is usually income. The system isn't designed to assess responsibility or betrayal. It's designed to move resources, and it almost always moves them in one direction. I've spoken with men who carried their families on their backs for decades, only to be discarded and penalised when things collapsed. One man spent 15 years married, never strayed, never checked out. He worked long hours, ignored mounting health issues, and poured himself into providing stability. His wife had an affair with her personal trainer, a stereotype so obvious it sounds fictional. Yet when the divorce finalised, he lost his home, paid ongoing support, and saw his children on a schedule that felt more like visitation than fatherhood. The betrayal didn't matter, the outcome was automatic. Stories like this circulate quietly among men, not in headlines, not in trending hashtags, but in private conversations, late-night phone calls and support groups. And men are adapting. Many aren't rejecting commitment itself. They're rejecting the legal framework attached to it. They'll share homes, build lives, raise children. Some will even hold ceremonies, but they refuse to sign contracts that history has shown can dismantle them with brutal efficiency. This shift has sparked outrage in certain circles. Men protecting themselves is framed as selfishness, immaturity, or fear. But what's really happening is pattern recognition. Men watch their fathers lose everything. They watch friends implode financially. They learned that ignoring evidence doesn't make you noble, it makes you vulnerable. As a result, solitude is being re-evaluated. Being comfortable alone is no longer seen as a flaw. It's becoming a benchmark of psychological health. Men are discovering that if you can't tolerate your own presence, if you need external validation to feel whole, you're not seeking love, you're seeking regulation. And no relationship built on emotional dependency ends peacefully. quiet evenings alone now feel safer than loud chaos disguised as intimacy. Meanwhile, dating culture has veered into surreal territory. Some women now present invoices for dates, hair appointments, nails, makeup, outfits, tallied and demanded up front. One woman calculated her preparation costs at $500 and requested payment before agreeing to meet. When the man declined, she went online portraying herself as exploited. The assumption that your existence is a premium product others must subsidize has somehow become socially acceptable. This has led many men to view dating not as courtship, but as structured financial drain. Some women openly admit they date exclusively for material gain. They maintain rosters. One man funds dinners, another covers shopping, another pays rent. There's no emotional investment, no intention to commit, just scheduled extraction, and this behavior is applauded as empowerment rather than recognized as opportunism. Social media plays a central role in fueling this mindset. Endless videos insist women deserve millionaires, that they're manifesting billionaires, that 6 figures is the bare minimum. But when asked what they offer in return, the answer is often vague or defiant. I am the table. No, you're a person making demands without proportional contribution. Self-worth doesn't increase just because you declare it. The manifestation narrative is especially damaging. Some genuinely believe wealth will appear through visualization alone. Vision boards of yachts and private jets coexist with minimal effort and maximal expectation. Solid men with stable careers are dismissed because an algorithm promised something better. TikTok becomes prophecy. Reality becomes an inconvenience. Accountability vanishes. Failure is never internalized. If relationships don't work, it's because men are intimidated. If they're single later in life, it's because standards are high. If patterns repeat, they're reframed as victimhood or strength. The capacity to self-reflect has been replaced with self-exoneration. I worked with a man whose ex accused him publicly of financial abuse for asking for a budget. She labelled him controlling for wanting shared responsibility. When legal documents later revealed she hadn't worked in years and spent thousands monthly on shopping, her posts vanished. His reputation didn't. Materialism now dominates dating priorities. Connection has been replaced by consumption. Shared values matter less than lifestyle optics. Designer labels outweigh character. Expensive experiences overshadow emotional depth. Some women even track men in spreadsheets, ranking them by financial utility. Multiple men serve different functions. This isn't openness, it's optimization, and it's justified by claiming men always did it, ignoring the fact that men weren't expecting women to fund their entire existence. Dating apps have further distorted perception. Average women receive disproportionate attention, creating inflated self-assessment. Attention from men seeking casual encounters is mistaken for long-term desirability. Temporary validation becomes permanent delusion. Reality eventually intervenes, but often too late. Finally, the idea of wealth itself has been misunderstood. Real wealth is quiet, conservative, boring. The millionaire next door drives a modest car and avoids unnecessary risk. Truly successful men don't bankroll strangers, they protect what they've built. And increasingly, that means opting out of a dating culture that confuses entitlement with value. The manipulation is no longer subtle. It's formalized, monetized, and marketed as strategy. And men, recognizing a hostile environment, are doing what rational people do. They're leaving the table. There is now an entire cottage industry built around teaching women how to financially compartmentalize men. One man is assigned rent, another is responsible for car payments, a third exists purely for shopping and discretionary spending. This system is branded as leveling up or securing the bag, as if monetizing people were a form of personal growth. Somewhere along the line, the idea of working, developing a skill, or building an independent career quietly vanished from the conversation. I watched a video where a woman calmly explained how to emotionally steer men into paying her bills without offering intimacy, commitment, or even genuine affection. She called it finesse. She had scripts prepared, emotional pressure points mapped out, specific phrases designed to trigger guilt, obligation, or rescue instincts. Thousands of women in the comments thanked her and took notes. This wasn't dating advice. It was a step-by-step guide to deception, repackaged as empowerment. As this mindset spreads, meaningful dialogue between men and women becomes nearly impossible. Any attempt to discuss dating expectations rationally collapses within minutes. Data is labelled misogyny. Statistics are dismissed as prejudice. First-hand experiences are invalidated. There's no curiosity, no willingness to understand the other side. The goal isn't resolution, it's dominance. Whoever wins the argument gets to feel morally superior, even if nothing improves. At the same time, the economic reality underneath dating is becoming more contradictory by the year. Corporate environments push for pay equity and advancement, which is reasonable. But then many of the same voices complain that there are no men who earn more than they do. You can't simultaneously demand equal outcomes and hypergamy. If women earn more collectively, basic math guarantees fewer men will out-earn them. The contradiction isn't ideological, it's arithmetic. Men are responding in the most predictable way possible: withdrawal. Dating participation among men is dropping at record levels. They're not staging protests, they're not writing manifestos, they're doing quiet calculations and opting out. When faced with the choice between emotional turbulence and financial risk versus stability and autonomy, many are choosing solitude. PlayStation over potential bankruptcy, silence over endless conflict, freedom over becoming a walking expense account, and by most measures, they seem noticeably more content. The cultural response to this has been dark humour, brutal, incisive satire created by men who finally stopped taking the system seriously. One video broke down modern dating requirements and demonstrated that meeting them would require being in the top fraction of a percent of earners, while also having the leisure time of someone unemployed. Another showed that certain physical standards alone would disqualify over 99% of men, before personality even entered the equation. The absurdity becomes undeniable when it's quantified. Men are no longer quietly absorbing these expectations. They're pushing back in practical ways, refusing lavish first dates with strangers, asking for equal contribution, walking away from situations that feel transactional. The most common phrase now isn't rage-filled or dramatic, it's simple. I'm good, not angry, not resentful, just finished. Many women miscalculate their bargaining power. They assume male attention is permanent, infinite, guaranteed. They believe men will always chase, always provide, always compete. Then reality intervenes. Age shifts the dynamics, attention decreases, options narrow. Suddenly the same voices that once dismissed men are asking where all the good men went. The answer is uncomfortable but obvious. They chose partners who treated them like people, not payment processors. Zooming out, the broader picture is bleak. Modern Western dating culture appears structurally broken. Core relationship principles, loyalty, cooperation, shared growth, have been replaced by extraction and entitlement. The implicit social contract between men and women has collapsed, and no one seems interested in rebuilding it. Instead of negotiation, there's accusation. Instead of compromise, escalation. Consider some real-world examples circulating openly online. One woman posted her non-negotiable dating requirements: minimum height of 6'2", minimum income of $250,000 a year, ownership of multiple properties, full financial provision, acceptance of her 2 children from previous relationships, and no expectation of intimacy until she decided otherwise. She was 34, unemployed, and living with her parents. The confidence wasn't aspirational, it was surreal. Another post went viral featuring a woman explaining why her boyfriend should pay her $5,000 a month for emotional labour. Not shared bills, not joint expenses, compensation for being in a relationship. She itemised it like a corporate invoice. Listening to him talk, $500, responding to texts, $300, emotional support, $1,000. She turned partnership into a consultancy agreement and presented it as reasonable. This mindset is being actively reinforced by dating coaches whose entire business model revolves around maximising extraction while minimising contribution. One course teaches women how to convince men to pay for cosmetic surgery by framing it as his idea. Another outlines strategies to receive multiple engagement rings from different men without technically committing. This isn't guidance, it's grifting with better lighting. Lifestyle expectations alone have become financially deranged. Some women calculate monthly maintenance costs, hair, nails, lashes, facials, gym memberships, wardrobes, and present the total as a baseline requirement. One claimed she needed $15,000 a month just to maintain her appearance. That's $180,000 a year for beauty treatments. That exceeds the annual income of most households, yet it's framed as a minimum standard. Housing expectations are equally detached from reality. Some women expect their boyfriend to maintain her apartment while also covering his own living expenses because a man provides shelter, 2 rents, 2 utility bills, 1 income. Her contribution? Presence. That isn't partnership, it's sponsorship. Gift expectations have drifted into parody. Valentine's Day now comes with 4-figure minimums. Birthdays require luxury experiences. Random gifts are expected just because. One woman publicly dumped her partner because the push present he gave her, a $2,000 necklace, wasn't sufficient. She expected a car. Travel demands follow the same pattern. Multiple international trips per year, 5-star hotels, first-class flights, Instagram-ready locations. Florida doesn't count anymore. It has to be Bali, Dubai, or somewhere that signals status. The experience matters less than how it looks online. Even cars have become litmus tests. Some women openly refuse to date men who drive reliable, paid-off vehicles if they aren't luxury brands. One man was rejected after a first date because he drove a fully loaded Honda Accord instead of a BMW. Functional, modern, paid for, but apparently not ambitious enough. Dining expectations are equally inflated. Some women won't consider a date unless the restaurant averages $500 per person. They order the most expensive items, barely eat, and focus on documenting the moment. The meal isn't nourishment, it's content. The cruel irony is that many of the loudest voices demanding financial perfection are themselves financially unstable. High debt, maxed credit cards, no savings, negative net worth. They struggle to manage their own money yet insist a partner be a millionaire. Responsibility is outsourced, not developed, and men are noticing. They aren't confused anymore. They aren't negotiating, they're stepping away. Another pressure point that quietly destroys modern dating is time itself. Expectations around timelines have become completely detached from reality. Some women want instant commitment while simultaneously keeping their options open. They demand exclusive access to a man's time, money, and emotional energy, yet reserve the right to continue shopping around. They expect the benefits of a husband while offering the investment level of a casual connection. It's not confusion, it's asymmetry. Full access on one side, partial effort on the other. Communication, meanwhile, has turned into a full-time job with no salary and impossible performance metrics. Constant texting is mandatory. Responses must be immediate. Good morning messages, good night messages, check-ins throughout the day. Availability is expected at all times, yet any sign of dependency is framed as weakness. You're supposed to be emotionally open, but never vulnerable. Honest, but not too revealing. Present, but not suffocating. Mysterious, but fully transparent. The rules don't contradict because contradiction is the rule. Layered on top of this is the social media performance requirement. Dating is no longer private. Every moment must be documented, curated, and broadcast. Dates aren't experiences anymore, they're content opportunities. If it isn't posted, it didn't happen. If it doesn't generate envy, it wasn't worth the effort. You're not just dating a person, you're feeding an audience, and the audience is never satisfied. Integration into her life is often expected immediately and completely. Meet all her friends, attend every event, support every interest, every passion, every phase. But integration in the opposite direction is optional at best. His friends are a bad influence. His hobbies are immature or pointless. His family can wait until holidays maybe. The relationship only flows one way, and compromise is always rebranded as sacrifice on his side. The concept of emotional labour has been stretched so far that it's lost all meaning. Listening is labour. Responding is labour. Being present is labour. Existing in the same room is labour. Yet men's tangible labour, working long hours, providing stability, fixing problems, building futures, is invisible. It doesn't count. Only one side's effort is monetized. The other's is assumed. Even expectations around male appearance are riddled with contradiction. He must be fit, but spending too much time at the gym is labelled toxic. He should dress well, but caring about his looks is considered feminine. He needs to be well groomed, but grooming is framed as vanity. The ideal man is expected to look flawless effortlessly, while hours of preparation on the other side are considered normal and justified. Financial transparency follows the same one-directional logic. Men are expected to fully disclose income, credit scores, investments, business dealings, and future earning potential, but ask about a debt, spending habits, or financial planning, and suddenly it's an invasion of privacy. Questioning imbalance is framed as distrust. The double standard isn't subtle, it's blatant. Traditional roles are selectively enforced. Men are expected to pay for everything as if it's 1950. But any reciprocal expectations around cooking, cleaning, or contribution are dismissed as outdated. Be the provider and protector, but don't expect authority or respect. Carry all responsibility with none of the rights. Tradition when it benefits her, modernity when it doesn't. Some darker strategies are being exposed more frequently now. The concept of baby trapping is no longer whispered, it's openly discussed. Stories circulate about women lying about birth control, sabotaging protection, or timing fertility windows strategically, then acting offended when men request paternity tests. The fact that this is a recognized tactic tells you how adversarial dating has become. Equally disturbing is the divorce fantasy. Some women enter marriage already planning the exit. They understand the legal incentives. They know the house, custody, and financial support will likely land in their favour. In certain online spaces, marriage is openly described as a long-term extraction strategy. Invest 10 years, then cash out. A relationship framed as a pension plan. Social circles add another layer of toxicity. Her friends' opinions often outweigh the health of the relationship itself. If her single, resentful friends disapprove, you're finished. If her divorced friends think you're not doing enough, you'll hear about it. You're not dating one person, you're dating a committee, and every member has veto power. Past behaviour is judged with staggering inconsistency. She's allowed a history. Yours must be spotless. She can maintain close relationships with exes. Yours are considered threats. She can have male friends. Your female friends are suspicious. The rules don't apply equally, they apply selectively. Communication failures are often reframed as your incompetence. Needs go unspoken, but you're expected to anticipate them. Problems are hinted at, never stated. When you fail to decode the silence, it's proof you don't care. Mind reading becomes the standard. Anything less is negligence. Celebrations have multiplied into an endless calendar of financial obligations. It's no longer just birthdays or Valentine's Day. It's the anniversary of the first text, the first date, the first "I love you." Every micro milestone demands gifts, dinners, gestures. Dating begins to resemble a permanent gift registry with no off switch. Therapy, once a tool for growth, is sometimes weaponized. Toxic behavior is excused because I'm working on myself. But nothing changes. Therapy becomes insulation from accountability rather than a path toward improvement. I'm in therapy turns into a shield against criticism. Men are also reduced to social props. He must look impressive at her events, elevate her status among co-workers, reinforce her image of success. His comfort, happiness, and preferences are secondary. He exists to enhance her narrative, not to live his own. Future planning expectations are equally unbalanced. Some women demand clarity about marriage, children, and housing timelines within a few dates. But when asked about their own level of commitment, the answer is vague. Let's just see where things go. Guaranteed outcomes are expected without guaranteed investment. Everything becomes a test. Response times, gift choices, restaurant selections, reactions to her friends. You're constantly evaluated, and the score is never high enough. The standards don't evolve, they teleport. Comparison erodes whatever remains. You're not competing with other men, you're competing with movies, novels, curated Instagram relationships, and fictional ideals. Reality cannot outperform fantasy, yet you're punished for trying. Some women expect men to bankroll their entire self-transformation. Education, business ventures, fitness journeys, spiritual awakenings. He's not a partner, he's a sponsor, funding her potential in exchange for future gratitude that may never arrive. Even pets become financial obligations, not just ownership but luxury care, designer accessories, organic specialty diets, weekly grooming, alternative therapies. One man was expected to pay $500 a month for his girlfriend's cat's acupuncture. Not medical necessity, acupuncture. At some point, men stop asking if this is reasonable. They already know the answer. One of the clearest signals that something has gone off the rails in modern dating is the expectation that a man should bankroll someone else's passions while having his own dismissed as foolish. Some women expect men to fully fund their creative outlets, camera gear, art materials, wellness retreats, spiritual workshops, yet ridicule his interests as immature or pointless. Her hobbies are growth. His a waste of money. The money flows one way, and respect doesn't flow back at all. It gets more surreal when dating itself becomes monetized. There are women who openly calculate the opportunity cost of spending time with a man and expect compensation for it. They frame a date as lost income or lost productivity. I could be working on my business right now, they say, as if companionship requires a retainer. Dating becomes billable hours. Romance turns into an invoice. Cosmetic enhancement is increasingly folded into this logic. Some women expect boyfriends to pay for surgeries and procedures, augmentations, fillers, injections, while framing it as a joint investment. You're told you'll benefit from the upgraded appearance, as if attraction were a shareholder agreement. It's not self-care anymore. It's a financial obligation disguised as intimacy. The financial reach doesn't stop at her. In many cases, it extends outward to her entire family. Men are expected to cover parental bills, sibling emergencies, and extended family shortfalls. You're not just dating an individual. You're absorbing an ecosystem of liabilities. The relationship quietly morphs into a support plan you never agreed to. Some women approach dating with an exit strategy already mapped. From the first date, they're assessing assets, researching net worth, and imagining the payout if things end. They aren't building alongside you, they're assembling a parachute. The relationship isn't a partnership, it's a contingency plan. Validation demands add another layer of exhaustion. Every outfit requires praise. Every idea needs affirmation. Every mood must be mirrored and approved. You end up encouraging an ego rather than connecting with a person. You become a motivational speaker for someone who returns little more than critique. Loyalty operates under a lopsided rulebook. She keeps options open, orbiters, admirers, private messages, while expecting total exclusivity from you. A liked photo triggers conflict. A casual interaction becomes an interrogation. She leaves doors ajar while demanding yours be sealed shut. There's also a pervasive sense that men should feel grateful for basic engagement. Her presence is treated as a favour, her time as a donation, her attention as a rare privilege. You're expected to appreciate every reply, every appearance, every crumb of interest. The bar for her effort is buried underground. The bar for yours is floating in the stratosphere. Future earnings are often treated as guaranteed collateral. Some women date men not for who they are, but for who they might become in an imagined future. They invest emotionally in hypothetical wealth, then grow resentful when reality doesn't meet the fantasy timeline. You're judged against a projection you never promised. Dating is further burdened by the demand to manufacture constant moments. Nothing can be ordinary. Every interaction must be cinematic. Regular life is insufficient. Coffee becomes unacceptable. A walk becomes boring. Everything must feel like a scene from a movie. When real life fails to meet scripted expectations, disappointment follows. Emotional support is sometimes expected to be telepathic. You're supposed to sense distress, identify its cause, and resolve it without being told anything. When you fail to perform this miracle, you're labelled distant or unavailable. Communication is replaced by silent test you're destined to fail. Credit within the relationship flows in one direction. Basic actions on her part are celebrated as heroic. Showing up is extraordinary. Small efforts are magnified. Meanwhile, everything you do is assumed. Providing stability, consistency, effort. Those are just baseline requirements. Nothing accumulates. Nothing counts. Control over the narrative becomes another pressure point. She edits the history of the relationship. Context is removed. Events are reframed. Stories are retold in ways that cast her as flawless and you as inadequate. Over time, you find yourself portrayed as the villain in chapters where you are actually trying to hold things together. Boundaries follow the same asymmetric logic. Her boundaries are framed as self-respect. Yours are labelled controlling. She expects full acceptance of her flaws while reserving the right to demand transformation from you. Adaptation is mandatory, but only in one direction. Emergency availability is assumed. A late-night crisis requires immediate attention. A bad day demands instant comfort. A minor inconvenience becomes urgent. But when you need support, you're told not to emotional dump. You're expected to be endlessly available without ever needing anything yourself. The demand for self-improvement never ends. yet it's never clearly defined. You're told to grow, evolve, and work on yourself, but toward what exactly? The target shifts weekly. It's not about genuine growth. It's about maintaining a permanent sense of insufficiency that keeps you chasing approval that never arrives. Some men are expected to deliver full boyfriend treatment in situations where there is no relationship at all. Emotional support, financial help, priority access, while remaining firmly in the friend zone or an undefined grey area. Relationship benefits are demanded without relationship commitment. Even emotional reactions are regulated. Respond too strongly and you're dramatic. Respond too calmly and you don't care. The correct response changes based on variables you can't see or predict. The rules are invisible and constantly rewritten. Leadership expectations are paired with mind reading. You're supposed to take initiative, plan everything, and guide the relationship, but only in ways she secretly wants without expressing them. Lead confidently, but somehow follow an unspoken script. Assert yourself, but only within invisible boundaries. Insecurities are often outsourced. You're expected to constantly reassure, stabilize, and rebuild someone else's self-worth. You become an unpaid therapist who also covers the bills. Emotional labor, financial labor, psychological labor, all bundled together with no reciprocity. Comparison to past partners adds another impossible standard. You must outperform every ex in every category while being nothing like them. More romantic than one, more successful than another, more attractive than the third, yet completely unique. It's a paradox designed to keep you falling short. Digital surveillance amplifies the stress. Likes, comments, follows from years ago are examined and reinterpreted. You're held accountable for your entire online history, while our own digital footprint remains unquestioned. The past never stays buried. Perfection is demanded without patience. Grace is requested for her mistakes but withheld for yours. Understanding flows upward. Criticism flows downward. Acceptance is unilateral. Scrutiny is mutual. Financial vetting sometimes precedes emotional connection. Some women request full access to bank statements, investments, and credit reports before commitment. Dating begins to resemble a corporate acquisition rather than a human bond. Proof of love is required endlessly. Yesterday's effort doesn't matter. Last month's sacrifice doesn't register. Nothing accumulates. You pour energy into a container with no bottom, and are told to try harder when it remains empty. Entertainment responsibilities are also assigned. You're expected to prevent boredom, plan activities, create novelty. You're not a partner, you're an event coordinator for someone who critiques every plan but never proposes one. Eventually men step back and take inventory, the financial cost, the emotional drain, the mental fatigue, and many reach the same conclusion. Solitude is cheaper, peace is quieter, stability is saner. Men aren't rejecting relationships. They're rejecting a deal that demands everything and appreciates nothing. They aren't avoiding women. They're avoiding being reduced to tools, wallets, and validation machines. They're not scared of commitment. They're scared of committing to someone who takes without giving. Now I want to hear from you. What was the moment that made you realize the exchange wasn't fair? What expectation crossed the line from challenging to absurd? When did you choose calm over chaos? Drop your experiences in the comments. Let's talk honestly about why so many men are stepping away, because pretending nothing is wrong while the exits keep filling isn't helping anyone.